All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome, day 2, JNUC. Hopefully everybody's having a great morning. This morning, we should all be here for the Wrangling risk, right? Security, sorry, don't have the full title.
You don't need
Browser Security and Management with Dr. K and Matt Armstrong.
Thanks, T. Disclaimer. Are you going to come up?
I was waiting.
You don't need to wait. The session's about Google Chrome and risk management and Chrome extensions and Google SecOps, so hopefully we're all in the right place. We have so much content to share. We're going to fly through these slides. There are going to be QR codes you can scan to documentation. The video is going to be online later, so you'll be able to review it in more detail then. We're going to see how far we get. Hopefully we can cover everything we want to cover with you all today. So just to give you a little bit about, well, one, thank you for being here to hear about this topic. We appreciate it. I see Lynn's here. Hey, Lynn. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to everybody that's here. Thank you to the support from Sam and the Google team and some of the work we've been doing for this. I'm excited to share it with you all. I'll also shout out Threat Labs and Jaren and the work that they've been doing to do some of the stuff internally at Jamf that we're going to get into in a little bit here. So I'm Dr. K. I manage our client platform engineering team here internally at Jamf. So we are in Jamf's enterprise technology organization in the IT department. We manage all of the devices at Jamf that are used by Jamf employees. And then I will let my colleague.
Yeah, and then Matt Armstrong from the security side of things. So we lean pretty heavily on Emily and her CPE team to help secure our devices across the organization.
We've got a few ghostwriters on this session as well. I want to shout out Nick Alhelina and Alan Goldberg at Jamf, who have helped with a lot of the discovery work, documentation, making sure we were doing things right. They were really instrumental. This is a super, you may not get a sense of how collaborative this effort was, but it was a huge cross-team collaborative effort to tie all these pieces together. So I just want to call that out and make sure that the folks that helped us know that we appreciate everything they did to help us pull this all together internally. Before we start, I just want to poll the room a little bit. How many of you at your organizations have Chrome browser as a primarily used or majority used browser? Okay, most of the room, cool. How many, and this is for like the device management folks in the room, if there are some, how many of you use any kind of management for the Chrome browser, a deployed configuration, something like that? Okay. How many of you are enrolling your Chrome browsers into Chrome Enterprise Core with a token for cloud management? Okay. I will maybe skip some slides based on what I saw, but I will go through at least enough so that you can see the content on the slide so that I have time to talk about the fun nitty-gritty how-tos that we're going to get to in a bit here. Okay. So, I'm going to hand it over to Matt to give you a little bit of the why we're here today and why we worked on the stuff we're going to share with you.
Yeah, so when we started this conversation and planning around the project that kind of happened over the course of the year, we were really focused on discovering and controlling the browser along with the extensions on it. This is on the heels of the Redirection campaign and just the expansion of the extension ecosystem that we've seen over the past few years, along with the AI and LLM aspect of that. So we really wanted to get a handle on what are our users leveraging, how are we controlling that experience, and then what can we do to secure the environment.
So from my perspective as like an endpoint management team is you almost have to treat the browser and, I think this may be a little bit more review about some percentage stuff. Let me just give a little bit of setup and then we'll pop back to you for that. So you almost have to treat Chrome like its own mini platform on your devices. It's like its own little platform ecosystem that exists on your devices. Cross-platform, Windows and Mac, right? So extensions are like applications that a user can install in that micro platform existing on your managed devices. So then it became for our team, we start treating Chrome as the browser like another platform that we manage. And how do we manage our Macs? We manage them by enrolling them automatically into Jamf Pro. How do we manage our Chrome browsers? We automatically enroll them into a Google Workspace account. So to get you a little bit more about why we wanted to start thinking about the browsers this way, let's talk a little bit more about some stats in the enterprise space.
Yeah, so Emily will click through a couple stats. We see that like 80% of enterprise data is accessed via browser, about 50% of extensions access corporate data, and then from a management and security perspective, we started asking the question, well, how do we configure the browser? How do we control the browser and the extensions? And what do we do for updates? So that's kind of the formulation of our problem statement. And then a couple more stats. So from the Verizon 2025 DBIR report, you see that about 30% of all breaches involve the third party. That's double 2024. Extensions, browsers are third party. And then you also see a 34% increase in vulnerability exploitation. And so browsers get frequent updates, right? Chrome is constantly updating. How do we set Emily and team up for success in that area? And then what do we do for extensions and managing updates? Keeping the things that don't need to be in the organization on enterprise devices out of the environment. And what do we do to detect and respond to events?
How do we take our position from firefighting to architecting? How do we stop putting out fires and build fireproof housing for the data that people are accessing in their browser? That's kind of the background of it all. So we've got a few more on some threat actors here.
Yeah, and so in terms of threat actors and techniques that we're seeing, baiting's a new one coined in that 2025 DBIR report where threat actors are using SEO tactics to pose as extensions, common extensions, think productivity, think entertainment. You also have masquerading, which is what we saw from the campaign that we'll talk about in a minute, where they offer a service and then in the background the real reason they exist is to act as malware, command and control, data exfil, or initial access and persistence. You have the supply chain, which is always a concern along with vulnerability management. And as we talk about that campaign, so Redirection was 2024 impacted 18 extensions across multiple stores and browsers, and the impact is somewhere from 2.5 to 16.3 million devices, depending who you ask and when you asked it. So moving over to the MITRE attack framework, this is the macOS MITRE attack framework with the techniques and tactics, number of tactics listed. We'll be concerned with a handful of them. So Emily, if you go to that next slide, we are looking at the how do these extensions get on the device, and then what do they do once onto the device? Are they accessing credentials? Is it data exfil? Is it command and control? And so as we move throughout the response process, we start mapping our detections and rules back to this framework to assess coverage from a security perspective, and then really start to prioritize what we respond to and how. Now I'll hand it over to Emily to take us through setting up all of this.
So when you talk to Google and Google tells you like we've got this like kind of three-step approach to security, right? We think about visibility, management, and security. You need to see what you have. You need to figure out how to manage what you have, and then you make your determinations on policy to keep what you have secure and make decisions about how you're going to manage. So what I want to cover here quickly is like how we got from and all the kind of pieces that fell into place when we said, okay, we really need to start taking Chrome extensions more seriously. We need to more effectively respond when there are risky extensions in our environment. We also need to figure out how to look at that data as part of our overall device management kind of posture, our continuous monitoring, seeing what's out there, what's changing, what we need to do to address those things. So that came down to really treating the Chrome browsers like another managed platform for our team. Around the time that we're having these conversations, a great blog from Threat Labs comes out talking about using event analysis with telemetry with Jamf Protect, and it included examples from Google SecOps. So my ears perked up and I went, oh, there's a new cool tool out there that Threat Labs is looking at. I feel like we should probably be looking at that too. Why not, right? We're already investing some time in it with other teams. Let's see what we can do if it works for us. So, you know, you're going to see some of this as we go through the setup steps. SecOps, part of the Google ecosystem, makes it very easy to get extension data into dashboarding platforms and response playbooks if you need to take action on devices and with the browsers, or just have general information at your disposal to see what the health of your fleet is like. And then me being manager mode like I am now, I was like, oh, it has beautiful dashboards too. Okay, so we can get security data, we can build continuous monitoring, and I get my pretty dashboards. Like, I'm in, let's figure out how to do this, let's start piping data in and playing around with it and seeing what we could do. So, all that setup, the why, what brought us here? The dream became as part of, how do we bring Jamf Enterprise, which is kind of my Pro, Protect, Connect, Security Cloud, those Jamf Enterprise tools. How do we bring that platform and the Google Enterprise platform together to tell a bigger picture story about the health of our device and how devices are getting to company data and how we take action about it? So the dream, right? We build reporting and management insights for Chrome extensions. We pull in Protect events and telemetry. We bring in Jamf Pro device data for enrichment. And then we visualize it all in one place. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And gosh, the setup and the why was 11 minutes. So I'm going to go through some of this real fast, so bear with me. But I think all that context is really important. I've been a Mac admin for so long, I'm concerned about the platform, but Chrome is another platform, and it's a platform that exists on our endpoints. So we think about it in a bigger picture of how we manage everything. So what we're going to cover is, we'll do a very quick overview of using a token to enroll your browsers into Chrome Enterprise Core. We'll talk about some of the available metrics that it gives you in a Google Workspace account once you have that configured. And then I'll go over how you ingest Jamf Pro and Jamf Protect into SecOps. That's the part that's going to go real deep and have lots of screenshots. So I will probably skip through slides quickly and you can review them later. And I'll actually give you some visualization examples and I'll link you to a place on GitHub where you can grab some examples if you want to try them out yourself. And then we'll see if we have Q&A time. Hopefully we do. All right, so what you need for this, if you're going to do it the way that we did it at least. Did it go through that already? Here we go. Okay, so we have Jamf Pro, a Google Admin Console with Chrome Enterprise Core, Google SecOps, Jamf Protect. If you've got Chrome Enterprise Premium, it unlocks even more deep integration across the platform. So it's a nice thing to have. If you have licensing for it, you can leverage it, and we'll show a little bit of examples of that. And then when you have super smart and charitable friends at your organization that help you figure out how to do stuff, that's like the bonus. That's the extra bonus. All right, so this is a part I'm going to skip through kind of quickly. It seems like the crowd is generally familiar with Chrome browser management as a concept. This is pretty well documented, and I've got a bunch of QR codes up here you can scan if you want to go along, but the Chrome Enterprise and Education Help website has tons of great documentation on how to set all this up. If you have an admin console, like my suggestion would be if you're starting to play around with this, you can make an organizational unit in your Google Workspace just for your managed browsers. So you can kind of keep them separate, have their own token, do your own stuff with them there. Especially if you're testing, I would suggest doing that first. That way we can kind of consolidate everything. So to get your token, you're going to go into your organizational unit, and there's an enroll thing at the top, and you're going to get a token. You're going to copy and paste that and tuck that away somewhere, and then we're going to head over and deploy this with Jamf Pro. It really is that simple. You go to like 2 places, you get a code, and then you just deploy that to your browser, and then the browsers are immediately enrolled in your Chrome Enterprise Core. It's super nice. Thank you, Google, for having a specific Jamf Pro setup for this. So there's one very specifically about how to deploy this configuration with Jamf Pro, but I'll show you very quickly how that works. So you're going to head to Jamf Pro and make a new configuration profile for macOS. We called ours Chrome Enterprise Browser Management. You're going to go over to the Applications and Custom Settings. And in here, there will be a preference for Cloud Management Enrollment Token, and that's where you paste in that code that you got out of your admin console. And then you're going to scope it somewhere for testing. You please use a test group. You don't want to just fling stuff out to your whole. I go over that. I've spent too much time talking about that. But a test group is a great place to start for any of these things that you're trying out. And honestly, as soon as you deploy it to your groups, you will start getting data almost immediately in your Google console. You'll be able to see how many browsers enrolled. It'll get basic telemetry data for you, like what operating system. They can get that through the agent of the application that's running on your computer. It's just picked up by the browser already by being on the device. It'll also give you like a trail up of some extensions and other stuff. This is all kind of mock data just to show you. But you'll get a sense of some extensions that are out in your environment, how many are installed. And I'll show you very quickly. My favorite thing to look at in here is that when you go through and you look at your list of Chrome apps and extensions, you can get usage reports immediately, even without a SIEM, without shipping data off somewhere else. The admin console will give you this data already for you to review. And that includes risk scoring for all of the extensions. So you can start immediately making decisions. If you have high-risk extensions, you can start blocking them immediately as soon as the browsers are enrolled. You can do it through the console, which is wonderful. Those scores come from a few different third parties that Google provides to help you kind of process that data. There's a QR code here if you want to learn more about what those resources are that help determine those risk scores. CR Excavator, LayerX, Spin.AI are the main ones there. And it uses a combination of scoring from those tools to give you a risk assessment. It's not trying to be prescriptive and tell you what to do. It's giving you data to make informed decisions about the risk level that those extensions might be introducing in the Chrome browser on your endpoints, and what you might want to do is kind of up to you as an organization.
Yeah, and I'd say the other thing that this starts giving security the ability to do as we're in firefighting mode is to dig in to those high-risk extensions and be able to, even without full automation, playbooks, all of that, start running investigations, cleaning up and hardening the environment the second you have visibility.
How you do that? There's the QR code that gives you the instructions on how to start blocking, allowing, denying extensions from running in the Chrome browser. Because that is pretty well documented, we're not going to cover how to do that in this now, but I know Google folks are here. They've got a session coming up. They've got a booth downstairs. Feel free to stop by there and ask them more about how you do some of this stuff for the Chrome browser. So I think here I'm going to pass it back over to Matt to talk a little bit more about some of the discovery work they did once we had the browsers enrolled.
Yeah, so again, visibility and just getting an understanding of the environment was our goal. We started with how many unique extensions do we have, how many installs. As you look at some of the pie charts, you see that the number of high-risk extensions in terms of uniqueness, it's about 15% of the extensions in the environment are high risk. Now, as you go over to what the install base is, you see that those high-risk extensions translate to about 1% of our total installs, meaning that we could take action to improve the security of the organization with minimal impact to our end users. And probably the trend that was most valuable for us was that vulnerability, the extensions, high-risk vulnerable extensions, and that trend growing pretty significantly and pretty quickly as we started to get visibility and ingest this information into our SIEM. We also classified these to get an idea of what types of extensions are being used. Crypto, AI, LLMs were pretty high on the list for things that we took action on quickly. Just get that stuff out of the environment. It introduces risk with no real business value.
And the beauty of the cloud token enrollment is that you can enable your enterprise security teams to take immediate action on those extensions without having to redeploy a configuration from Jamf Pro and figure out the ID and build custom P-lists. And it happens immediately as soon as those browsers are enrolled, and it happens in that admin console. So your Google admin console becomes your device management portal for your Chrome browsers, that unique platform that they provide on the endpoints.
All right, so going a bit further, we see that four extensions make up 75% of the total install base, meaning that there is a lot of shadow IT going on. People are installing the extensions they find useful, helpful, business or not. And so then we start looking at, well, what are the sources for these things? 90+% of these come from a store, in this case, the Google store. With pretty minimal installation from other sources. A lot of those are us being developers, and a software company and building things, loading from Artifactory or GitHub. And then on our management journey, the other thing that we're looking at is what is the user associated with this extension and browser. You see Gmail kind of listed as the top. That is something we are actively trying to get rid of and move over to the @jamf.com domain, and a work in progress. So as we go on to what scale looks like, we are getting 700,000 events on an average workday. That's a pretty significant amount of data. It's great. We also have to figure out what do we do with that and how do we scale to handle and make sure we're addressing the things that we need to and making the right decisions. And in terms of what that data is, so our partners at Google provided some functionality for us that we're leveraging for both the browser and extension threat feeds. And we've started with precision. So we're not trying to boil the ocean. We're really trying to get those precise metrics that there's a high confidence in and begin to build out our response. What are we doing when we have those issues or incidents identified and to correct the environment?
And then as we start having a sense of what's going on, how do we continue to build on the visibility and start building reports and metrics that we can use to start making informed decisions? And that means how do we bring it all together in one place to build the reporting and the dashboards that we would need to really understand what's going on and start making some changes that will improve our security posture at our organization. And it made sense to, one, Threat Labs is amazing, and when they zero in on a tool, we know that that's something that we want to dig into as well, right? But also knowing that this is starting from the Google Chrome browser and then thinking about how we enrich the data we're getting about the browser with more about the device, more about the person, more about the telemetry and events happening on the device. It made sense to start trying to bring it all together into SecOps. So what's super cool about Google SecOps is that when you get yourself a tenant, it comes with a bunch of pre-built dashboards. And all you need to start doing is setting up your integration to other tools like Exchange, your VPN stuff. You get Google Workspace alerts. That is enabled almost immediately as soon as you turn it on. And I'll show you quickly how to set up that integration. And there's, to learn more about the kind of, what they call it, curated dashboards that are available to you, there's a QR code you can scan there. What's really cool about this is as soon as you start piping in your data, you already have example queries that'll start pulling stuff together for you in reports and dashboards. It also gives you a really good starting point to figure out how to use their query language to build your own report tiles and dashboard stuff. So integrating Google Workspace with SecOps. So this is the first step. How do we take all that amazing information that's in our Google Workspace account and how do we pop it into SecOps to start, right? There's good documentation from Google Security Operations online about how to do this. So I'm not going to go over into it super in depth here, but I just want to show you that as soon as you hook it up, you immediately have dashboarding, and especially with Chrome Enterprise Premium, you get premium dashboards that will give you top installed, least installed, most used, side loaded, and you immediately start seeing trends and extensions that people have installed, how frequently they're being used. Knowing how frequently they're used is very helpful for teams like Matt's to figure out what high risk but low impact things can we go after. If it's already minimally used and it's a high risk extension, we can get it out of our environment quickly without causing a bunch of disruption to our end users. So this data is really helpful to have right off the bat, and it happens as soon as you hook up your Workspace and your Chrome Enterprise Core with SecOps. The other cool thing is with these curated dashboards, you can immediately download reports for yourself. You can get CSVs that you can then send to your audit teams, send to your enterprise security colleagues, use yourself to start making decisions and understand what's going on. So we've got Chrome in there, cool. But we need to know more about the device. We want to get the complete picture. So this is where we start talking about enrichment. How do we take events from Chrome and potentially other things that we're piping into our tooling, and how do we bring it all together? And this means figuring out ingesting other tools, selfishly for us, Jamf tools, into SecOps so we can start seeing high level of having that, I don't want to call it a single pane of glass, But let's build some connective tissue across these products that we use so we can understand holistically the health of our device and what's going on them. So I'm going to start with bringing in Jamf Pro, and I'm going to give you a little high level about how SecOps approaches this before we get into the steps to set up the webhook ingestion. So when you go and look at default parsers, parsers being how we take a feed in and understand what the feed has in it. Right? How do we determine what the values are in that feed so we can use that data? There are a bunch of Jamf ones in there. And this was a lot of trial and error, and this is where I'll shout out Golby, who really helped me figure out the right feed type to use, which I'm going to share with you all today. There is right now, as of today, October 8th at 9:24 Mountain Time, there is no default parser for Jamf Pro. So what I'm going to show you is bringing in a default feed from Jamf Pro using computer inventory complete webhooks. So that you get basic device information that you can start using to build some reporting. So as we go through this, I'm going to call out what the feed types are, and then I'll give you examples about how to pull those feeds when you start using queries. I'll get to that in a second here. So let's talk about setting up this integration with SecOps initially. This is where we get into a lot of the screenshots where you'll literally see how to do this step by step. So this is where I'm going to try to be as quick as possible and remind you all that recordings of this will be available later to review. All right, so Jamf is on there right when you open it. I love that for us. So there's Jamf. You're going to select that one to start bringing in your device information. When you set this up, the Jamf Protect folks have worked closely with Google to build out parsing and ingestion for Protect events and telemetry alerts. So that's the stuff that's called at the top. It says required. We are going to get to that, but I'm starting with Pro data. I'm a Mac admin. I feel like I have to. So we're going to go down to other log types, and where there's a Jamf Pro MDM feed. That's what we're going to use to set up our webhook ingestion from Jamf Pro. Some of this other stuff is just, what do I want my namespace to be to make searching easier? You can really put any value that's useful to you there. The important part is going to be going to that Jamf Pro MDM feed, and clicking the little dot menu for your feed, and we're going to view the feed. In the feed, you'll see endpoint information. That's our webhook URL. That's where Jamf Pro is going to send our data. So you need to grab that endpoint information, and you also need to go over and grab a secret key. And I didn't show you that because I'm not going to show you the details of a secret key for our feed. But you need to go over there and get a secret key, and you're going to copy and paste this somewhere because you're going to need this in a bit. You also need a GCP key. So if you're a Google customer, you're going to have GCP available to you. You'll probably have another part of your organization, your identity team, your enterprise security team. Some other team will probably do this part for you, but I'll show you what the screenshots look like. You're going to go into GCP, get a new API key. When you go in and set up an API key, what's happening here is Jamf Pro is going to dump all the feed data into basically a holding cell with Google and GCP, and then SecOps is going to pull it out and display it. So we're going to say that our API restriction here is Chronicle API. Chronicle is the previous name of SecOps, and it's just still called Chronicle here for some reason. QR code. Scan that if you want to know more. All right. Here's the part that I love. We get to go back into Jamf Pro and we get to set this up, right? Okay, so the details we got. We got our feed type, we got our endpoint information, our webhook URL, and we got a GCP key, API key, and we got a secret key from SecOps for our feed. Here's how this all works. And don't worry, some of the header authentication, I'm going to blow up a bigger version so that you can see it. Okay, so you're going to want to give it a name, and oh, there we go. Our webhook URL is that endpoint information, that big string that I had an orange box over because I had to obfuscate some stuff in this, sorry. Our header authentication is going to be, for our authentication type, it's a header authentication. In here, I love that what these are called, xgoog API key. It's pretty clear, right? That's your API key from GCP. X webhook access key, that's your secret key from the feed in SecOps. And those are the values you plug in there. Your timeout is up to you based on ingestion, things that you have going on with your SecOps account. You might want to adjust those variables. I just left them as default. Your content type here is JSON. The webhooks that we're going to set up are JSON. And then we're using computer inventory completed. Why that one? Well, if you go to the Jamf developer site, it'll show you all of the information that comes in that computer inventory completed webhook. And that includes some stuff that I selfishly am very interested in. It's going to let me know who has it, their email address, their host name, their JSS ID, their OS version and OS build. That's stuff that I can immediately build effective reporting on, operating system version adoption over time, due to managed software updates, that kind of stuff. So this was a quick webhook that would give me basic data that I could use very quickly. And as soon as you set all that up, you get Jamf Pro, you enable the webhook, you'll pretty quickly find in your data ingestion and health dashboard, and that's one of the curated dashboards in SecOps, you'll see Jamf Pro MDM feed stuff starts immediately. Now that webhook, the trigger is a recon. So anytime a computer recons to Jamf Pro takes the data from that recon and then sends it over to SecOps. So you may need to let your feed sit and bake for a little while as your devices check in to start getting enough data where you can really get a sense of the reporting that you can write. Here's just a really quick view just to see what kind of event data comes in. So the log type is Jamf Pro MDM. We saw that when I was talking about the parsers at the top. I'm going to give more examples. I'll go back and just so you can see it's a beautiful thing to see event data coming in like that on a timeline. I'm going to give some examples in a second. I want to make sure that we get to Jamf Protect and talk through that. And then I'll give you some examples about looking at the event data and starting to build some queries. So Jamf Pro MDM. OK. Protect. This one's really well documented, so I'm going to go even faster through this. Sorry. The Jamf Learn docs has a nice write-up on how to set up ingestion for Google SecOps using a webhook. For the maybe Mac admins in the room that haven't done a ton with Protect directly, I will give you some screenshots on what the plan and the actions and that stuff looks like so you can get a sense of what it would look like to set that up. The process to get ready for this is largely the same that I showed you with Jamf Pro. You're going to add the feed. You'll need a GCP API key. You will need that endpoint information URL. You'll need a secret key. Now the trick with Protect is we're going to set up 2 feeds, one for telemetry and one for alerts and information. So you're going to need to set up 2 feeds, 2 API keys in GCP. 2 sets, you'll have a set of a secret key and an endpoint for both of those things. And I'll show you how you set both of those up in a second here. All right, so I'm in Protect. And I'm setting up an action. The action is what's going to take the data that comes in from the endpoint and then send it over to SecOps with a webhook. So I made a new one. It's my JNUC SecOps demo. In here, I'm setting up my first data endpoint. This one, I've obscured a bunch of this stuff, right? But you will notice from the header authentication that we used in Jamf Pro that our header here is the same. It's just broken out into some fields you can copy and paste into. So xgoog API key gives your GCP key a place to go. Xwebhook access key is for that secret key for SecOps, for that feed type. This first one is telemetry. So I check the box for telemetry, and I uncheck everything else. Why that's important, the data is structured differently, so it's parsed differently. So they need to have their own ingestion and parsing happen because the data is all structured differently. They can't be all grouped together. I know that because I did it wrong the first few times, and then Golby helped me get it right. I'm going to set up another data endpoint. This one is for, you'll see I have all alerts and unified logs. And I'm going to tell you now, I only put 1 computer in this plan and got so much data I didn't even know what to do with just with 1. So it won't take long for you to get a lot of data going to play around with. Both of these endpoints are going to be on this action, and then you can go down to the bottom and set what you want to collect. I just collected everything. Why not? Now I'm going to go in and make my test plan, and I'm going to add the action to this plan. The plan will give me a configuration profile that I'm going to dump on my computer, and then Protect is going to know where to send all of its telemetry and event data to, and then when those actions happen in Protect, the Protect tenant will tell the endpoint to send webhooks to SecOps with all that information. Okay. Same thing with Jamf Pro MDM, I just needed a moment. You'll start seeing in here almost immediately, even with 1 computer, I'm already getting a ton of telemetry, V2, and Jamf Protect data. So when I go over and just to, again, give you a sense, when I want to go look at what's going on with Protect, I've got 2 log types I can look at. Jamf Protect is going to be your alerts. and unified log, custom analytics, stuff like that. And then telemetry v2 will be the telemetry action. And they're going to come in with their own feeds because we set up 2. So if you want to get a holistic view, you're going to want to look at both log types. Depending on what data you're looking for, you may want one versus the other. And now, let's talk about some examples. Okay. The pretty stuff, the dashboards, what the managers and up love to see. Give me beautiful, colorful pie charts that show me what versions of things are going on or how many processes are running. This is all the fun stuff, right? So I decided to look for me, and I went, okay, Jamf Pro MDM will start with device. And why would we want the device in here? We can take Chrome data, right, and risk data, and we can say, okay, but then Jamf Pro, tell me who this user is. Because maybe the Chrome extension was installed with a non-jamf.com domain, whatever the case may be, right? We want to enrich that data and have a better sense of the device if we need to take action.
Yeah, I mean, it really gives us a set of pivot points to expand and change the investigation to cover the full risk that we're experiencing. So when you get that event from Chrome about a specific user, specific device, and then you correlate it with Protect and everything else that's going on the device, maybe correlate it with your DLP, you really get a sense of that full environment and give you the pivot points to investigate the user, the device, the domain, the application, whatever it may be in terms of the security event that you're responding to.
And when you get into the SOAR playbook stuff, which I'm really hoping I can show you a very basic example of in a little bit here, you could get yourself into a position where you say, okay, this high-risk extension was installed. Who's the user? What's their device information? Maybe we need to demote that device to a standard account for a while to make sure nothing else goes on the platform until we can investigate further. And once you have all that data in here, you can use the playbook functionality to start building out those kind of workbooks. And you can have human touch points in them so enterprise security agents can go in and make determinations about stuff that's happening on the device. So from the application and operating system level down to the Chrome extension level, you can start doing that when you enrich all that data with what you can get from Jamf Pro and Protect. So I looked myself up with my Jamf Pro, and I wanted to see what kind of data I could get. And I immediately noticed I've got my OS version in there, right? I showed you that Jamf developer doc with the webhook that showed that OS version was going to be there. You know what Mac admins love to talk about? Managed software updates. So I can immediately get OS version, and I can start figuring out, okay, if I deploy a managed software update at this date, can I do a timeline to see how quickly it's adopted across my fleet and put it in here and use that as data alongside our other telemetry and events data. So to build that kind of query, I'm going to look at my log type of Jamf Pro. I mentioned this was a generic feed, so everything is an extracted field, which means it just took generic data and it determined with the JSON format how to extract a variable. So our extracted field in our webhook is computer inventory completed, and then what I'm looking for is OS version. Once I have that data, I can go in and I can start making the pretty stuff, which I love. Who doesn't love pretty stuff? So I can go and I can go, wow, after like a week, our Tahoe adoption was pretty baller. We had, I think about a week and a half in, we were up to we were over 70%. Adopted. People adopted it really quickly. And you can see trend lines of, and around the same time as you all might remember, we got 15.7 came out right around there, if not shortly after. So you can start building trend lines immediately of that stuff. Operating system updates include security patching of the platform, so that's an important part of your security posture. So being able to report on it is really helpful. And it shows the efficacy of going in using managed software updates or Nudge or any of those other tools that you use in securing your endpoints. And then you can build these reports that you can share with your audit teams, with your security teams to show that your workflows are impacting positively the security posture of your endpoints in your environment.
Yeah, and I say this really starts to enable us to utilize OKRs or KPIs, whatever your acronym is, for performance of the program. So if we see adoption at 90% for the latest OS, I know things are going well, we accept 10% risk and we can move on and get back to the rest of our job.
So let's look at some Protect examples. In here, I was thinking about, I mentioned a potential workflow of maybe demoting a user to standard if we see some kind of risky behavior happening on an endpoint. So I was like, I test the Jamf Connect elevation demotion flow on myself on my Mac, so I know that I can use a custom analytic to pick up that activity on the Mac, and I can use SecOps to report on it. So I looked up an event in here. I looked at my Jamf Protect log type. In my additional fields, I've got JC daemon, Jamf Connect daemon, as an option for an activity type happening on a computer. And then I dug down to look at the message and used a string just to match part of the message to look for the word added, which means that that I added myself to the local admin rights group on my computer. And once I do that, I can start building some reporting around, it's down here, by the way, there's an arrow. I know it's a little small. I can start pulling together additional information, and I'll have a pie chart on that in a second. Another one that I thought was fun was external disk storage, mounting external drives. That's something that you can manage with Jamf Protect. And I wanted to see like how frequently are mount events happening on my computer. Now my computer has external storage restrictions in place. So it will pick up virtual storage, like disk images or pieces of software that are installing as a mount event as well. But I can filter some of that out if I want to and look for specific types of events. But to grab that, in our case with where we deployed this, using Telemetry v2 is fine, but to just be thorough, if you're looking through Protect data that you have, you can do Jamf Telemetry or Telemetry v2. As you know, v2 was in like the last year, I think, for Jamf Protect and just how they enhance some of the telemetry data you can get. And just looking for an event type of mount. And then I start getting what's going on my computers, right? Not just the state of the device, but the state of the activity on the device. And this is just me. This is my Mac, like the one that's like sitting over there that I use every day. I can see that all of my mount events are virtual interface. So the only mounting events that are happening on my computer are virtual disk images when I'm installing software and stuff like that. All my processes are really entertaining to me. Apple Music, Stream Deck, Self-Service Plus, right? Those are processes that are running on my computer. You can get all this information out of that Protect feed data that you set up. And then I can also check to make sure that I'm only running software processes that have valid signatures. Or am I running some that are unsigned or ad hoc? I'm not sure what the ad hoc one was because I'm not going to tell you, because I'm not going to do that on a recording. But just to give you a sense, like you start pulling all this stuff together and you go, Chrome extensions are a type of application and service that run in our environment. It has its own inherent risk, right? And then I have, where are those things coming from? What's the most frequently used? What's the top installed, right? And that's all critical for determining what we might need to take action on.
Absolutely. You know, going back to how we elevate our security program, it's really by reducing risk while minimizing friction across the organization. If I have to remove an extension that 100% of the organization is using, or 50%, that's not going to go well. But if I can remove an extension that 2 people are using that creates risk, that'll go smooth as can be with no impact, no real impact to the org.
Yeah. The last thing we want to do is prevent people from doing what they're at Jamf to do, which is enabling all of you and enabling ourselves to succeed with Apple in the enterprise and to secure your endpoints, do these things that we all want to do, right? But we also need to make sure that we ourselves are keeping our endpoints as secure as we can. So having this data all pulled together and being able to take action on the data we have is critical to always improving our security posture. I didn't show a full dashboard because I knew that we've got 3 minutes, but I do have some of my example queries on GitHub that you can go grab with the log types and everything, and I'm probably going to go and keep adding more as we keep working on this together as an organization. So, and just as a reminder, these sessions are recorded and will be on YouTube, so you can come back and review the content later. We have 2 minutes. How quickly do you think we can get through this?
I think I could skip this slide, go to the next one. This is one of my favorite things. Back one, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So this is one of my favorite things from Google SecOps forward one. Yeah, there we go.
Yes, got it.
That came out, I don't know, last week. I was going through things in preparation for this on Monday. Saw this fantastic view. So what is really cool about this is that we spend a lot of time mapping things back to the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and Google does this automatically. So we turn these things on. We turned on the threat feeds for Chrome and Chrome extensions, and now we have coverage against all of these tactics and techniques and automatically map back to the MITRE attack framework. So when we go tell Lynn or Mario we have a gap here and we need tooling, this helps articulate that story.
I have like 5 seconds. So I'm going to show you something very cool that is very, very, very new, and we want to show you, which is they're in the marketplace for the SOAR playbook components of security operations. So where you can actually build no-code playbooks to take security actions and mitigate risk based on the signaling that you get going into SecOps. There is a Jamf integration, a response integration in the Content Hub, in the marketplace of SecOps that you can go install. All you need to do is plug in a client API credential set and your URL for your Jamf Pro instance, and it will give you actual API-based actions you can take on devices in SOAR playbooks if you need to take any automated risk actions. So I'm just showing you super quick, just so you can see that it exists, and hopefully y'all can look at it later. But to give you a quick example, you just plug in an API client ID and secret and your URL, and then you can start building playbooks with SecOps to take response based on signaling and events you get from some of the feeds that you pulled in. So I'll give you a really boring example just so you can see what the no-code playbooks look like, which is, oh my gosh, this specific Chrome management event happened. I'm going to get the device information from Jamf Pro, and then I'm going to lock the device. I would never do that. You'd want more to it than that, but I just wanted you to see an example of how easily you could do this once you set this up. So if you do have SecOps, go to the marketplace, look for the Jamf integration, and you can plug in your Jamf Pro server and start doing really incredible automated response workflows with Jamf built into SecOps. And it is 9:45, so I think we have a hard stop. But what I will say is Jamf at Jamf is here all week in the expo hall. In the Jamf area, come by the Jamf at Jamf booth. Matt and I will be here the rest of the day and tomorrow. If you want to talk more about this or maybe see a little bit more of examples, please come by and talk to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you. As Dr. K and Matt has shared, check them out at the expo booth, Jamf at Jamf, if you have more questions. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.